What's up guys? In today's video, we're going to be talking all about supersets. So what are they? Who should be doing them? What are the different types of supersets which you can be doing, and just the general pros and cons about them, because I see a lot of people these days just going to the gym and just doing supersets purely for the sake of doing them because they think, oh, well, you know, I've read an article on supersets, so surely this is going to be beneficial if I do them. So I think a lot of people just need to be educated a little bit more on the topic, and then you can really understand whether or not you should be implementing them into your routine. So first of all, I'm going to take you through the different types of supersets which you can be doing, along with the different pros and cons associated with each. So the first one, the pre-exhaust method, where you typically do an isolation movement first, and then you do a compound movement. Let's say I'm a rookie gym goer, okay? I don't have these exercises nailed, and I've only been training for a couple of months, right? Imagine I'm going to do the isolation movement first, so I could do the dumbbell flies, do however many repetitions I want to do, but I've pretty much reached failure. Let's say, for example, on the 10th rep, okay? Chest is knackered, right? Imagine now I sit back and I go into the barbell press. What's going to happen, right? My chest is so exhausted that you're just going to be pressing with tricep and shoulders. Your forearm's going to be terrible. You're going to be wobbling all over the place. There's going to be minimal chest engagement. You're going to be overworking the delts, and you're going to be causing havoc on your joints. So generally not going to be a good idea. The second superset, which is going to be the opposite of the pre-exhaust, is a post-exhaust. Now, this one, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit more beneficial for most people out there, particularly if you're not so great at executing chest exercises. So in this example, you would do the barbell press first, and then you'd superset that with dumbbell flies. So the advantage is you're doing the barbell press when you're fresh, right? So you're probably going to be able to lift more, and you're going to have more focus and attention, which you can then, drive towards your technique. And then you just exhaust the muscles and go to failure, or whatever it is, doing the dumbbell flies. The third one, which is the compound superset, in my opinion, probably isn't going to be a good one to be doing. So let's say since we're staying on the topic of chest, let's talk about chest again. So let's say, for example, they start off with the flat press. Let's say they're going to superset a flat press with an incline press. What's going to happen, right? They might do the flat press and absolutely nail the execution of the exercise. However, when it comes to doing the 10th rep, their chest is frazzled. So then they come to doing the incline press. What's going to happen? The chest is frazzled. Front delts and triceps are going to take the majority of the tension, and the form's just going to be crap. You're really not going to be engaging much of your upper pec. So not a good idea. Another example of a compound superset going potentially wrong could be, say for example, if you're going to do a pull-up superset with a bent over row. Okay, they're two compound movements. They're pretty taxing. So imagine you do the pull-up, you're trying to focus on hitting your lats as much as possible. So let's assume you're executing the exercise properly. You do the desired number of repetitions, you're close to failure, your back is pretty done in, right? Now imagine you go straight into bent over row. First of all, you're going to be out of breath. Your lats are going to be fatigued. So what's going to happen? For most people out there, they're going to over-engage with their biceps. They're going to end up pulling and not really retracting the shoulder the way they should be, okay? So to effectively execute this exercise, you need to retract the shoulder, squeeze the lats. But if your lats are already fatigued, it's going to be some form of a row where you're over-engaging the biceps. And if you are knackered and out of breath, you're probably going to bend your spine as well. So it's just going to look like some horrible, crumpled over reverse bicep curl. By the time you finished it, your back's going to hurt. You're going to have a massive pump on with your biceps. The fourth type of superset, which is the isolation one, I think this one's pretty good, okay? But only if you have each exercise nailed. One particular advantage which I find with doing two isolation exercises is where you can overload different points in the movement, okay? So where you can overload the muscle in the shortened range and when you can overload it in the lengthened range. So in this example, I'm going to be doing an isolation superset. So I'm going to be hitting the chest twice, but I'll be using two different exercises to hit different parts of the strength curve. So I'll actually position myself inside of the cable crossover, and I'll just be overloading the shortened range, right? So it's just the top half of the repetition, okay? So it's going to be really hard at this point in the movement. I'll probably do, could do 8 to 10 repetitions in this range. Then, once I've exhausted the shortened range of the movement, I'll then work on the lengthened range of the movement, where I'll go onto an incline or flat dumbbell fly. But this time, I'm just going to be working the bottom half of the movement. Okay, so in the stretched position here, where I've still got some energy in the tank, I'll just be working it to failure. The fifth type of superset is the antagonist superset, whereby you're doing 2 opposing muscle groups. So you could be doing a push superset with a pull, whether you do vertical or horizontal. You could do push, pull, or you could do bicep superset with tricep. Now, this is probably one of the most popular and maybe one of the best ones you can be doing, because each time you do the exercise, that muscle group is relatively fresh, right? So if you did a bicep exercise, obviously you're going to fatigue the bicep, and you go into a tricep exercise, that tricep is going to be fresh, right? And one of the biggest benefits of doing this is you can fit a hell of a lot more into a training session. So I also just want to run you through a couple of other supersets which some people might be doing, which in my opinion you just straight up shouldn't be doing. So ones which are going to be placing a lot of stress or compression upon your spine. So let's say, for example, you did a barbell back squat and you superset with a Romanian deadlift. Realistically, that's just not a good idea, because if you do a barbell back squat, obviously, yeah, you're going to be working your lower body, but you are going to be taxing your lower back a little bit. So if your lower back is fatigued and then you go into doing a deadlift, it's just a recipe for disaster, okay? You're not going to be able to keep tight form, a neutral spine, and you're probably going to injure yourself. So it's not a good idea. And since we're on the topic of big compound movements, I would honestly just leave them as their own separate exercise, okay? Why would you try and do a squat and then superset it with a deadlift, okay? Every time I do a big compound movement, whether it be a barbell bench press, a deadlift, or a squat, after I've done it and given it everything I've got, I'm knackered, I'm destroyed. I need to rest after that. So for me, it wouldn't make any sense for me to do a squat and then go straight into a deadlift. In my opinion, it's just a recipe for disaster. So if you are a beginner, you just got into a training routine, or you've only been training for 6 months, you don't really need to be doing them, okay? It's not like you need to place your muscles under a greater level of stress. You're gonna see results if you just gradually, progressively overload the muscles. It can, however, be advantageous for those people who are, they're short of time, or they don't really have, availability to train as much as they'd like to. Then, okay, that's great. Maybe doing antagonist supersets in your training sessions is a good way to squeeze everything in which you need to in, say, for example, a 45-minute window. I would also just consider your goals, okay? So if you're the type of person that's wanting to improve upon your strength, supersets are generally just not a good idea, right? If you want to focus on strength, leave those exercises as individual exercises and allow yourself adequate recovery in between them, right? It makes absolutely no sense for you to be supersetting exercises together, working the same muscle group, if your focus is to build your strength. One final note on supersets, just coming from my training experience. I've been training for 10 years now. I remember when I was introduced to the concept of supersetting exercises, and I used to do them all the time. I used to try and superset everything, together, just to try and do as much volume as possible within a session, because I thought doing more was better. But it's not the case, right? And you guys know me, I'm all about quality and really execute exercises as best as you possibly can. And when you try and do one after another, the quality of those sets does start to diminish a little bit, right? So if I'm doing supersets now, I will often do them if I'm short on time, or if it's an arm routine. I do find doing a bicep tricep superset is particularly effective, but generally speaking, if I really want to nail a particular exercise and get the very most out of it and make it as intense as possible whilst keeping my form strict, I just leave it as a single exercise and I don't superset it with something else, okay? So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon.